Hello, friends. Ben Pierce, Senior Pastor at Fuquay-Varina Baptist Church, coming to you from 301 Studios here in Fuquay-Varina. And again, we're talking about these kings and who died and made you king, as we've been looking at the kings of the north, the kings of the south. The north is called Israel, and then we also have the southern tribe of Judah, and that's what it was called, but it was Judah and Benjamin in the south. And so today we're going to take a turn and we're going to look at some of the kings from the south. And there's one of my favorite kings is Joash. Now, there are two kings named Joash in the Bible. One is in the south, one is in the north. Again, I don't know if they just couldn't think of new names or these were royal names, but they were all, sometimes you'd have various kings, and so sometimes you got to really pay attention. Now, he's going to be king from 835 to 796 BC. Now, we covered Joash a little bit last week when we discussed his grandmother, Athaliah. Now, remember, Athaliah wiped out her grandsons except for Joash, who escaped from her wrath. She wanted the throne for herself. And so Joash was taken and he was hidden in the temple by his aunt and his uncle. And they hid him. Now, Joash is going to reign for 40 years. He starts out great. And the reason he starts out great is he has a great counselor. It was the high priest, Jehoiada. Now, Jehoiada was over him and helped to give him good counsel about what to get rid of as far as the Baal worship, to clean up the temple. And one of his main achievements was repairing the temple. And you'll remember, Joash, the chest of Joash is in there. He didn't finish well, though, because what happens is Jehoiada is going to die, and he begins listening to wicked advisors. In fact, he's going to revive Baal worship. God is going to send a warning to Joash through a prophet named Zechariah. Now, Zechariah's father was Jehoiada. That's right, the great high priest we just talked about. Well, Joash did not listen, but instead he had Zechariah stoned. Now, wait a minute. You went from being 7 years old to being one of the best kings with the brightest future to now you're having one of the prophets stoned. Yeah, his reign did not end well. His own men turned on him and killed him. What's some lessons we can learn from that? Well, there's a danger of having a propped up faith. A propped up faith is a faith that is dependent upon someone else. You might have had a godly mom, and your faith is propped up on her. No, you can't have a propped up faith, because what happens is when that person's gone or that person's not there, you're going to fall on your face. Joash had a propped up faith. It was propped up by Jehoiada. You have to be willing to step out of the shadow of your mentors. If not, your faith will falter. It's got to be your own faith. The opposite of this is true as well. If you're mentoring someone, you're helping them to grow in their relationship with the Lord, you have to let them grow up and be their own person in their own faith. Now be careful. Joash had a peaceful reign. When we have times of security is often when we get most comfortable. And when we get most comfortable is when we can go through the motions of our faith. We slip up. We have an unguarded strength, and an unguarded strength is a double weakness. I would have never thought Joash at 7 years old would have ever reinstituted Baal worship. But that's what can happen when you get comfortable, when you go through the motions, and it looks like everything's going well. No, that's when we got to continue to press on to seek the Lord. Yeah, Joash starts off great, but he falters in the end. So that is Joash, a great study. Let me invite you to go and read about these kings and ask questions and discover, because you'll learn a lot about God's faithfulness, God's goodness, our wickedness, but there's going to come a king who is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Until next week, Fuquay Baptist, I'll see you then.